I left work early, without any real reason, just because I wanted to see her face, hear her laugh, watch her toss her hair back, make coffee, and ask how my day went. Outside, the streets were slick with the remnants of a morning rain, the asphalt shining under dim streetlights, light diffused in the damp air. I thought these little things would make coming home simple, a quiet ending to the day. When I approached our apartment, the door was slightly ajar. Inside, it was quiet, but not the calm kind of quiet. It was tense, the kind of quiet that makes a house feel like it's holding its breath. I stepped in, bag in hand, trying to sound casual, footsteps on the parquet, a click of the light switch, waiting for her voice. Instead, I saw her smartphone on the kitchen table, its screen glowing with a notification under the muted light. I tried to look away, but my eyes kept returning. The apartment smelled of coffee and something sweet, a faint echo of yesterday's dessert. But there was another smell, subtle and unsettling, the scent of someone else's jacket draped over a chair, a whiff of cigarette smoke, unfamiliar. Behind the couch lay a scarf I didn't recognize, thick, soft, out of place. My mind clung to the possibility it was just a forgotten accessory, a stray guest, anything but what it might be. I stepped further into the room and noticed the small things you never notice when you're in love: crumbs on the coffee table, a cup with a lipstick stain, a pair of sneakers tossed in the corner, receipts from places she never mentioned. My chest tightened, not with anger, but with the creeping dread of suspicion. I sank onto the couch to steady myself, trying not to panic, replaying the last few weeks in my head, late nights, evasive answers, tired eyes, strange scents. It all lined up into a chain my intuition refused to let go. I didn't go to the bedroom right away. I lingered in the hallway, watching the light fall across the bookshelves, glint off the frame holding our photo from a picnic long before routines and unspoken doubts crept into our lives. I remembered how we promised to always be honest, and felt that promise flicker at me from the past, now foreign and unreachable. Suddenly, her phone vibrated on the table, an incoming message. I leaned in and saw a preview, a name I didn't know, and a line that sent ice through my chest. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear my own breathing. At first, I resisted believing it. Maybe it was a mistake, maybe I was misreading things, maybe I was desperate to believe in the best. But the seed of doubt had already taken root, a tiny crack in trust that widened rapidly. I sat on a chair, feeling a strange fatigue, needing to gather my thoughts, but every thought circled back to her face, her laugh, what might have been happening in those late evenings. Minutes stretched like hours. I kept scrolling through her phone, looking for something, anything, to justify the situation. There was nothing. Then I found it, a photo carefully hidden in a folder, a small caption promising a meeting. It wasn't proof in any legal sense, but it was enough to destroy illusion. I sank to the kitchen floor, back against the cabinet, replaying evenings I had once shrugged off, her short responses to my calls, the waiting, the uncertainty, her return with vacant eyes. Every detail gained a new, cruel meaning. Inside me, anger, betrayal, and a prickly emptiness fought for space, the feeling that the world I thought solid was dissolving. I realized I had two choices: confront her immediately in a storm of emotion, or quietly observe, gather facts. I chose the latter, not out of fear, but because I knew a rash step could shatter more than just my trust. I gathered everything on the table, hid the phone under a cloth, as if covering evidence, and stepped out into the stairwell. I stood by the window, staring at the gray city, as if hoping to find an answer in the wet streets and dim lights. I didn't return immediately. Instead, I wandered through the city streets, letting the cool evening air wash over my face. Streetlights reflected on puddles, and distant traffic hummed like a pulse I could feel in my chest. My mind spun with questions and possibilities. Could it be a misunderstanding? Was it just a fleeting mistake, or something deeper? I hated myself for even considering that maybe I'd been blind for months. Hours passed. The cafe I usually visited was empty, a few students and tired workers hunched over laptops, steaming cups of coffee. I slid into a corner booth and ordered a black coffee I didn't taste. I just stared at the swirling steam and tried to map the sequence of events in my head. Every memory of her felt fragile, like glass under pressure. The laughter, the little touches, the late-night calls, they all now carried a subtle hint of deceit. Eventually, my phone buzzed. It was her. "Where are you? Everything okay?" The words, innocent enough on the surface, made my stomach twist. I typed nothing, deleted everything, typed again, deleted again. Each attempt felt like trying to hold water in my hands. I realized I couldn't respond, not yet. Not until I understood. I decided to follow her. Not stalk, exactly, but watch from a distance. I remembered the pattern of her movements, the subtle hints in her schedule. I slipped into my car, heart pounding with a mix of fear and anticipation. Each block I drove, each turn I took, felt like stepping deeper into an unknown territory, a city made unfamiliar by doubt. Then I saw her emerging from the subway, smiling at someone I couldn't see from my position. My chest constricted. She looked lighter somehow, carefree, laughing, leaning into the unknown presence with ease. My hand tightened around the steering wheel. Who was he? What had she said? My mind ran wild with imagined conversations, imagined confessions, each worse than the last. I followed them to a small, dimly lit restaurant on the corner. Through the rain-streaked window, I saw her reaching for his hand. My gut turned over. I wanted to slam on the door, confront them, demand answers, but instead, I remained in the car, trembling, frozen by the scene. Time slowed. I watched as she leaned back, laughing, tilting her head, completely at ease. And then, almost imperceptibly, she touched her phone. A message came through. I couldn't read it, but I saw her lips curve slightly, an expression I had never seen directed at me. I drove away, my thoughts a storm. I wanted answers but feared what those answers might demand of me. Maybe it was my fault. Maybe I hadn't been enough. Maybe love itself was fragile, like glass on a kitchen counter, waiting for the wrong moment to shatter. By the time I returned to the apartment, night had fully fallen. I entered quietly, heart still racing, eyes scanning for signs. Everything was exactly as I'd left it, the scarf still there, the phone hidden. But now the apartment felt like a cage, every shadow a whisper, every silence a question. I sat down, not ready to face her yet, but unable to leave. Morning light spilled through the blinds, sharp and revealing. I didn't sleep. Every sound, the creak of the floorboards, the distant hum of traffic, kept me on edge. My mind replayed last night's scene over and over, dissecting every detail, the tilt of her head, the laugh, the hand that wasn't mine. She returned from her morning run, humming softly, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside me. Her hair was damp, her cheeks flushed from the cold air, and for a brief, fleeting second, I almost wished everything could be normal again. Almost. Alex? You're up early, she said, tying her sneakers. The casualness of her voice pierced me like glass. I swallowed hard. Yeah. Just couldn't sleep, I said, forcing calm into my tone. My heart was a drum in my chest, threatening to betray me at any moment. She nodded, leaning against the counter. I took a deep breath. We need to talk, I said. Her brow furrowed. About what? Everything inside me screamed to throw everything at her at once, the messages, the laugh, the touch of her hand on him. But something held me back, a strange mix of fear and disbelief. Instead, I chose a different approach. I saw you yesterday. With him. Her face went blank for a second, then shifted to confusion, then anger. With who? She demanded. You know who, I said, my voice rising despite myself. At the restaurant. Laughing, touching your phone, leaning into him. Do you want to explain that? Her eyes softened, and for a brief second, I thought I saw the truth in her gaze. Then she laughed. A sharp, short laugh, one that cut straight through me. Alex, it's not what you think, she said, moving closer, placing a hand on my arm. My skin tingled, not with love, but with raw tension. Then explain it. I snapped, stepping back. Every instinct in me screamed, protect, attack, understand, destroy. I didn't know which direction to take. She hesitated, looking away. It's complicated, she admitted finally. He's my brother. He's back in town. I was telling him about us. About you. About everything. I froze. My mind scrambled to catch up. Him, her brother? The details I had twisted into betrayal now seemed absurd, yet my gut still churned with unease. His brother? You mean, that guy? I asked, my voice shaky. Yes, she whispered. I didn't want you to find out like this. I wanted to tell you, properly. Her eyes pleaded, her hand still hovering near mine. And then my phone buzzed. A text from the same unknown number I'd noticed yesterday. He saw you. Be careful. The room seemed to shrink. My stomach turned over. Suddenly, her explanation felt incomplete. Something wasn't adding up. My mind raced. Was it really her brother, or had I been fed a partial truth to cover something darker? I barely heard her next words, because my mind was spinning with the text, the confusion, the half-truth she'd just thrown at me. Something was off, deeply off, and my gut screamed it. Alex, what's wrong? She asked, taking a cautious step toward me. I didn't answer. I grabbed my jacket and keys. I need air, I muttered, heading out the door before she could protest. The cold hit me like a wall, sharp and unforgiving. Each breath came in ragged bursts, and my mind replayed the previous day's events in a dizzying loop. The city felt alien, streets twisting and dark corners feeling heavier than usual. I didn't know where I was going, only that I needed to think. My phone buzzed again. Meet me. Now. Before it's too late. No number. No name. My chest tightened. Against every better judgment, I followed the vague directions in the text. The street ended at an abandoned parking garage. Shadows stretched along the concrete walls, dripping with the scent of rain and rust. I stepped inside. And there he was. Not her brother. The man from the restaurant. He smiled, but it was thin, calculating. Alex, he said. We need to talk. I froze. Every instinct screamed to run, but the knot in my stomach refused. Talk about what? I demanded. About her, he said, stepping closer. And about the truth you don't see. What truth? My voice was a harsh whisper, echoing off the walls. He tossed a folded envelope onto the concrete. I picked it up. Inside were photos, her, in the restaurant, yes, but not just laughing. Leaning close, whispering, hands brushing in ways I hadn't noticed before. And behind her, almost hidden, another man, her brother, yes, but also someone else, someone whose face I didn't recognize, someone clearly in the shadows, watching. My hands trembled. She had lied. Part of her story was true, but part was deliberately twisted. Why? I croaked. Because you need to know what you're dealing with, he said. She's not just hiding one secret. And now that you've seen this. I wanted to yell, to demand, to punch, to run. But my body was frozen. The weight of betrayal, of confusion, of anger, pressed down on me like stone. And in that moment, I realized something crucial. The world I thought I knew, the one with her, the one with trust, the one I believed in, was gone. She might have loved me. She might have cared. But somewhere along the way, the lines had blurred, and I had been blind. And now, I had to decide, confront her fully, walk away, or unravel completely in the maze of lies. The rain began to fall outside, spattering the concrete, echoing like a heartbeat. And as I stood there, holding the envelope, I understood something terrifyingly simple: nothing would ever be the same again.